We begin the current Daf Masechet Shabbos Daf Koftes. We begin in the second line Daf of the top of the Amud. We're in the middle of discussing the topic of our previous Mishnah, which is regarding refuah. Regarding refuah on Shabbos, and we happen to have been discussing regarding kiloirin, which is a certain type of ointment in the eye. And we continued regarding as related to the eyes, if you didn't wash until Zidayim and you touched your eyes, which are dangerous. That's where our Gemara continues. Shes Kospans Bekalzach and Yecheskel, to anytime Daf Achayim. Some of these we're going to speak about in today's Daf is regarding the evil spirit that rests in on the hands in the morning before washing, and some of the ways of being masak in that. Additionally, regarding basting, in regards to cooking a roast on Shabbos, if that's a problem about tikkun mana, because what happens is when you put on these things, you're finishing it up, you're making it better. So that's the discussion regarding if that's a problem about tikkun mana. Additionally, about treating injuries to the back of the hand and the foot on Shabbos, regarding what's considered permitted, what's considered forbidden, some of the laws of refuah. Sometimes something is considered as a life-threatening thing, and therefore you're allowed to treat that on Shabbos. Additionally, which waters may a person bathe in on Shabbos for refuah, and which they may not. And if they're obviously therapeutic, then that's something that's forbidden because of Gzeir Rabbanan of refuah, that would be forbidden to be done on Shabbos. Additionally, certain medications are permissible to be taken on Shabbos. If they're foods that are normally eaten by healthy people, we mentioned this in the previous Daf. Let's say having a glazel tea, metonic. So then, even if you're taking it because you want to heal your sore throat, but still that would be permitted because that's what normal healthy people do also, and therefore it's not so evident. Additionally, treating snake-related illnesses is going to be a large discussion on Amid Beis. That's going to be discussed additionally too. Some important terms and concepts we're going to speak about is called Makar Shachol. Internal injuries are assumed to be life-threatening, and therefore Michal Shabbos. And so too, we're going to see something that, although it doesn't look like an internal injury, sometimes you can't tell. And the Gemara says that's even considered an internal injury too. Additionally, we're going to be discussing Michael Briam, which, as we mentioned, is a very important halacha in the halachas of refuah. Even though it has therapeutic value, may be eaten on Shabbos. So if it's something that's a normal type of food that regular people eat, that's permitted to be eaten on Shabbos. So we begin the current Daf, like we said, Kaf Testament Aleph, 2 lines down from the top of the Yamid. But the Gemara is continuing regarding this idea about touching the evil spirit which rests on the hands in the morning. So Tanya Lina Bryson, he says, Bas Charin Hizu. This spirit that rests on the hand before you wash Negel Vas, before you wash your hands in the morning, is a free spirit. Umakpedes, and it's particular about the washing of the hands, that you should wash it very well. Until you wash it 3 times on each hand. If you don't wash it, then the evil spirit is still there on the hand. And Rabbi Shloimy says, however, if let's say someone did touch the eye before they wash Negel Vas, before they wash until Zidam in the morning, so Puch, which is a certain type of eye makeup, a mascara, if you put in your eye, Maver Bas Melech, it removes this, literally means the daughter of the king, but like we said, it's a Bas Char, and this spirit has, it's a very strong spirit. If it harms the eye, this spirit of the Bas Melech, this mascara, this puch, could get rid of it. It also stops the tears. It has 2 other things it does also. It stops a person's tears from coming out and also increases here in the eyelids. In the Brisa, the way Rabbi Yechon said it, Rabbi Yechon, he says, this mascara is maver bas melech, and there's 3 things. It gets rid of the evil spirit that was there in the eye because you touched it before you wash negel vasa. Also, some people, they're teary-eyed. Certain babies have a lot of tears, so this peich stops the tears. It also increases here in the eyelids. Continuing on these halachas of refuah that we were talking about in the previous stuff, he says alan, which is the name of this herb, there's no problem about refuah when you're eating it to illuminate the eyes, which would be problematic on Shabbos, because as Rashi says, it's not healing. So therefore, there's no problem about doing that on Shabbos. Amar Visi says kuzbarta, coriander, ain't ba mishum refuah. It also doesn't have a problem about refuah. Amar Sheshes, he says kishus, which are hops, ain't ba mishum refuah. That also doesn't have a problem about refuah. Again, these things are not considered medicinal because they don't have such good healing properties. Amar Visi, he says kuzbarta, that we mentioned before, the coriander, he says afila didi. Even for me, that I'm blind, kosherly, it's so harmful for my eye if I'm going to eat it. So to the contrary, not only is it not healing, it's actually detrimental. So therefore, obviously, there's no problem about refuah on Shabbos. Amar Rav Sheshes says gargira, which is rocket, another type of herb, afila didi. Even for me, that I'm blind, he says ma'ali. He says the contrast. Rocket is healing, and he's saying even for a blind person, it's going to be good for his eyes. Obviously, gagira is something that's refuah. V'amar Maruk v'amar Shmuel says kol mini kishus, all types of hops. Sharu is permitted to eat on Shabbos, as we can learn in the Mishnah Amid Beis, that you're allowed to eat food items that are not refuah types of things, even if you're doing it for refuah, because it's not obvious, not evident. So therefore, it's permitted. Labar mitruza, which the person doesn't eat it; they only takes it for medicine. Pretty obvious, the kids say, "Oh, not fish oil." Oh, right? It's pretty obvious. No one's eating unless it's for refuah purposes. So that's the one hops that everyone would take only for refuah that you cannot take on Shabbos. So Amar Chizda, he says shrika tavia. Shrika means to baste and to smear oil and whipped eggs on the tavia, which is the roasted meat when it's hot, when it's already Shabbos, is shari, it's permitted. But as Rashi says, as long as there's no concern about bishul, because it's not so hot, then you run into the problems as Rabbi Rosen, you always speak about the laws of bishul. You have a problem with cholent. You put haisa cholent with the coleslaw. The coleslaw is raw, and you could cook it. So also you could be a problem with the chicken, and you put on the base. But as long as it's not burning hot, it's not going to cook that. So it's permitted to go ahead and pour that based the eggs on top of the roast. And what the chiddush in that is that it's not dumb. It's not similar to masakin. It's not considered that you're fixing. There's no problem about tikkun mana, because generally what you finish off the chicken is with the base. So saying that that's not considered a problem about tikkun mana. And he says, however, pipue bay, the whisking of the eggs, which is you beat the eggs in a bowl, that is actually asur. It's actually forbidden, because that looks like you're going to put it into a pot. So therefore, that's something that's forbidden to be done on Shabbos. The Gemara actually brings a story related to one of the previous halachas. The Beiser the Zeiri of delay, the wife of Zeiri, she made this shrika tavia. She went and she basted a roast, and she did it Lechia bar Ashi, who was one of the students of her husband. Lo yochel, and the Talmud didn't eat it. So Amalei, she said, Rabbach, to your teacher, to your Rebbe Zeiri, Abdillah, I did it from Ba'achal, he ate, V'at le'achalt, and you're not going to eat it? So the Gemara says, yeah, that's because Zeiri l'tamei. Zeiri, the Rebbe, he went according to his reasoning. Because the Amma Zeiri, we find elsewhere, the Zeiri said, a person could put in clear wine, umayim slul, in the clear water, l'ticha meshameres, into a strainer, which strains the sediment, the PC part of the wine, on Shabbos into a strainer. And there's no concern. Now that should be a problem of butter. So that says the Gemara, but one thing we see from his teaching is, Kivin the Mishtati Hachi, since it could be drunk, it's fit to drink it as it is without sifting it. So Labidi Kavah, he didn't consider that as being done anything. It's not considered butter, because it's really this. It's like people have this with the water filters. It's edible. It's drinkable. It's potable water even without sifting it. So the sifting is not considered significant to be a violation of butter. So Chanami here also in this case, Kivin the Miskal Hachi, since the food can be eaten without basting it, so Lav Miti covered, he held it's the same thing. You're not really doing anything significant, so therefore it's not considered Masakin Mana. So although you're making it better, but he says that that's not considered halachically significant. Whereas the Talmud, Chibrashi held that basting is a significant improvement, and therefore he wasn't going to eat it because he felt that this was a violation of Tikkun Mana. Another teaching from V'amar Marukva says, Mishanagfa Yoda Eragli. If someone if someone banged his hand or his foot, meaning he stumbled and he hit himself, he got a wound. So same Sibayayin, what he could do is that he could go ahead and reduce the swelling with wine, meaning to get the blood go down. There's no concern about that it's treating it with the wine, because it's not considered an effective treatment, and therefore it's not considered refuah on Shabbos. Now, we boil with the following question, what's the halacha with vinegar? Then Rav Hillel Rav Ashi says, Kavini Rav Kahana, when it's Shibri Rav Kahana, they said chalaloi. No, vinegar already you cannot. Because vinegar is an effective treatment, and if there would be a problem, a violation about refuah on Shabbos. Now another qualification, Amar Rabbi says, the people from Mechuzah, Kivin the Mefanki, since they're more delicate, they're more pampered people, and anything that's a little bit strong is harmful for their flesh because they're very delicate, and it's going to make it shrink. It's going to make it reduce its swelling. So for them, even wine, nami masilu, it's also going to heal. Because for them, that's considered a strong thing for them. And therefore, again, there's two limitations in this sense to go ahead and to reduce the swelling of a wound. Either vinegar would be forbidden for everyone, or for the mechuzah, who are very sensitive, it's going to heal even with wine, and for them, even wine is going to be forbidden. Now, the Gemara says a story of Vina Iklavi Ravashi. Vina went to the house of Ravashi. He saw that a donkey stepped on top of his foot. He was sitting and he was reducing the swelling with vinegar. So Malay said to him, doesn't the master hold what Rav Hillel said that vinegar not, because vinegar is very strong, and that's an obvious refuah, and you can't do that on Shabbos. So Malay said to him, Gava yad v'gava regel shani. You're right, regular refuah you can't do that. But the top of the foot, or the top of the foot of the hand is different, because that's a really harmful wound, and it's dangerous, and therefore you could be mechal the Shabbos for such a wound. Now, Igdam, those say actually that Chazid the Kurtamas lebechama, that he saw him actually shrinking it with wine. So Amalei said to him, that Hani b'nei Mechuzah, that the people of Mechuzah, keeping the Mefanki, since the delicate of Filachami Nami Maslo, even wine's also healing for them. The master is also delicate, so in the first version he was doing vinegar, which according to everyone is forbidden. And then he says, yeah, but this is a sakonis nefashis, because it's on the top of the hand, the top of the foot. This version was only with wine, which only b'nei mechuzim. He says, you're also like b'nei mechuzim, you're also delicate. So Malay said to him, no, gaba yad v'gaba regel shani. Like we said, the top of the hand, the top of the foot, that's different. And why is it? So the Gemara explains. Damar avad b'mas damar Rav, he says, gaba yad v'gaba regel, top of the hand, top of the foot. Harein k'maka shal chol. It's like a wound that's inside. We call it internal wound. Shabbos, we have many types of wounds that, and therefore one should consult with a medical professional. Sometimes it's like, okay, Shabbos, you don't want to go ahead, call Hatzalah. Sometimes it could be an internal wound and it's very dangerous, even things that don't seem like that. And therefore that's why he says that this is different and you can be Mechal Shabbos. Yeah, it's a problem, but you could even be Mechal, whatever it is, because of it's an internal wound. The Gemara continues with the laws of refuah, which discusses the laws of bathing in various waters for therapeutic purposes. So, turn about in a brayso. You could bathe yourself in the waters of Gurar, b'mei Chams in the waters of Chams, b'mei Asya in the waters of Asya, b'mei Tveria and the waters of Tveria. Now, although these waters are a little bit salty, but the norm is to bathe in them in the weekday, and it's not obvious that you're doing it for refuah. So therefore, although maybe someone might be doing refuah on Shabbos, but like we said, this is important halacha for the hilchos of refuah. If it's not evident, so then you're allowed to do it. So you're allowed to go into these waters because people will go into these waters even for non-therapeutic purposes. Avaloi b'yam hagadol, but you cannot go into the Yam hagadol, the Mediterranean Sea. And then more later on, can explain the reason why would that be different. And v'loi b'mei mishra, neither can you go into water, the flax water, which is water that they soak flax, and it's not normal to bathe in there. You only go in for it has certain medicinal purposes, the flax, which is healing, so therefore you can't not bathe in that either on Shabbos. And not in the waters of Sidon, which are very salty, as we said in the previous Daf, and you cannot bathe in it. You only go for refuah purposes, and therefore it's evident that you're doing for refuah. So therefore those three bodies of water you cannot bathe in on Shabbos. Now the Gemara has a contradiction. Seems to be contradicting from the following brayso. Brayso says, you could bathe in the waters of Tveria, like we said in the first brayso, but it also says ubeyam hagadol, in the Mediterranean Sea. So that's the contradiction. The first brayso says you cannot, and this one says yes. And the brayso continues, avaloi b'mei mishra, like we said before, the other two are the same. You cannot bathe in the flax waters, and not in the waters of Sidon. Says the Gemara, kasha yam hagadol, we have a contradiction regarding bathing in the Mediterranean Sea. On that Rabbi Yechanan, he says, look, kasha, it's not difficult. The second brayso that said that you could bathe in the Yam hagadol is Reb Meir. It's Reb Meir, who, as we're going to shortly see, he equates all bodies of water the same thing. And he doesn't differentiate between the Yam hagadol and other seas. So, therefore, he's going to hold that you could bathe in the Yam hagadol just like a regular body of water you're allowed to bathe in. But the first brayso that says you cannot bathe in the Yam hagadol is Rabbi Yehuda. It's called like Rabbi Yehuda, who he differentiates between the Yam hagadol and other bodies of water. And therefore, yes, other bodies of water you could tavel on Shabbos, you could bathe in, but not in the Yam hagadol. What's this referring to? What's this halacha that that they have this dispute. Did not like learn the Mishnah. It's a Mishnah Masechtas Para, Mishnah Masechtas Mikvayis that says like this: Kol hayamim, all the seas, all the bodies of water in the world are kamikvah. What does it mean? It's like a mikvah. It has all the laws of mikvah on it, and it doesn't have the laws of a ma'ayin, of a spring. Now, what's the difference between a mikvah, which is a gathered body of water, and a ma'ayin and a spring? So there's two primary differences between the two of them. A ma'ayin, a spring, is appropriate for a zav to immerse himself in. It's also used for spraying by the mitzayra, with the tzipor, the blood that you have to spray on the mitzayra. And the reason for that is because they're considered mayim chayim. A ma'ayin, a spring, is considered live waters. And that's why in machshava it's called living, because a living thing comes from its own. It springs forth from what's inside of it. That's a living person. A dead person is someone that's always taken, like a bird. It's just taken from outside. So they're considered mayim chayim, and you could also use it for the paraduma waters, which is you have to have, all of them have to have mayim chayim. By a zav it says, v'rochetz b'sar b'mayim chayim. By the mitzvah it says, al kli cheres al mayim chayim. By the mechatas, which is the paraduma waters, it says mayim chayim al keli. So that's one thing, that's the difference between a mayim, the spring, and a mikvah. Additionally, the second point is that a spring could purify someone who immersed themselves in its water, even when the waters are flowing, because that's the normal thing. A spring is always flowing. It's a geyser. It has a spring from its side. It's always coming out from the spring. Now, a mikvah, on the other hand, that's where actually from the word mikvah itself, is gathered waters. If you taivel in a mikvah as the water is flowing, let's say down a cliff, so that wouldn't be considered a valid tefillah until it's gathered, what's called coven. That's the word. It means gathered in one place. As a Brisa teacher in Teres Koyanim, you would think just like a spring purifies when it's flowing so to a mikvah. That's what it says. No, ach mayin. Ach mayin says no. Only a ma'ayin, the spring purifies when it's flowing, but the mikvah only purifies when it's what's called ashbayim, which is only when it's in one place. So therefore, the mikvah is not kosher for the zav to toivel in. It's not kosher to spray the mitzvah with, and it's not kosher to use for the paraduma ashes that you have with the waters. That has to be specifically mayim chayim, has to be spring waters. So when we're saying here in the first opinion of this Mishnah that Remeir, they're saying all the seas are like the mikvah, means because the pasuk, as we're going to say, calls it a mikvah. Shneim, like it says in the pasuk, well the mikveh hamayim. And for the gathering of the waters, Karayam, we call it the seas, the Remeir. So what we see from Remeir is that he doesn't differentiate. He considers all bodies of water the same. So again, what we were answering is that when we say regarding the Yam HaGadol, that it's going to be permitted to bathe in, is because, yes, just like all bodies of water, we say you're allowed to bathe in on Shabbos, besides two exceptions, because they're very salty and people only go for, or flax, you only go in for refuah, but all other waters you're allowed to go in because not evident you're in for refuah. So the Yam HaGadol is just like them all. Like you see, Remeir doesn't differentiate. He considers all bodies of water to be the same. They're all called the same word, mikveh. That's the pasuk says, mikveh hamay, kariyam. Now, Rabbi Hudain, however, he disagrees. He says, no, Yam HaGadol is k'mikveh. He says the pasuk is only calling the word mikveh on the Yam HaGadol, because that's what the pasuk is talking about in Ma'aser Bereishis. Because all the waters gathered over there, the earth was covered with water, and then they gathered they separated, got off the dry land. You were able to see the dry land. The reference of the mikveh hamayim was only going on the Yam HaGadol. V'lo nemer yamim. So then why, if it's only talking about the Yam HaGadol, so why say yamim, the seas, which is in the plural? Sounds like it's going on all the bodies of the water. No, it's because in the Yam HaGadol there's actually mixed in many different types of seawater in that same seawater of the Yam HaGadol, because all the rivers flow to the sea, so it has many different types. Therefore, we say it in the plural, but really it's not referring to all bodies of water. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, actually, all of the bodies of water are going to be are not called mikveh. The only one that's called mikveh that has to be still waters, if you want to immerse in it, is going to be the Yam HaGadol. That's Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore we see that he does differentiate between the Yam HaGadol and other bodies of water, and therefore the Gemara is saying that the Bryce that says that you cannot bathe in the Yam HaGadol is going like Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Yom HaGadol is different than all other bodies of water. So yeah, all other bodies of water you could go in on Shabbos, but you can't go in to the Yom HaGadol. A third opinion, parenthetically, once we're bringing the Mishnah, Rabbi Simi says, Kol HaYamim. He says, no, all the seas, including the Yom HaGadol, Mitaran B'Zeichlin, they actually do purify when it's flowing. It has the halachic status of a spring in the sense of that it's going to be mitar even when it's flowing, because it is normal for seawater to be flowing. You always have the waves, and it's normal for it to be like that. And therefore he disagrees with the premise of the previous Tanaim, and says they're all going to be tarf when they're flowing. But if psulim lezam l'tzera, but for the other halacha like we mentioned, there's two halachas that's usually a differentiation between the mikveh and the mayim. One is regarding when it's flowing, and one is regarding being called mayim chayim. So regarding the flowing part, he says no, there's no such a difference as between the mikveh and between the mayim, because the seawater is also normal to be flowing. So therefore, they're also going to be permitted when they're flowing. Regarding the other thing about for zavim and tzeram and mechatas, it's called mayim chayim. The pasuk says. So yeah, the seawater obviously would be psul mazam and tzeram, would not be valid for a zav to immerse himself in it, or to spray on the mitzayir, or the kaddish ben mechatas, or to sanctify the paraduma waters, because there it says mayim chayim, and here it's called a mikvah. Obviously, that it wouldn't be valid. But regarding the fact that it's constantly coming and going, that's like zeichlin. He's saying it's permitted, but mayim chayim it's not, because it's called a mikvah. Now. So at this point in the Gemara is trying to say Meir doesn't differentiate, and therefore they're all going to be permitted to bathe in on Shabbos. Neither does differentiate, and therefore he's the one that says Yom HaGadol is different, and therefore it's going to be forbidden. Now Taisus asked the question, it sounds like the Gemara's question, but the Gemara asked the obvious question. If Maskler or Nachum Yitzchak, he says, I don't understand this pshat that you're giving over here. As you continue to base. Aimer de pligi. When do we say that there's a machlekes over here in this Mishnah between Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda regarding if we're going to say the Yom HaGadol is the same or different than all other Yamim? That's in Tumah v'Tahara. That's regarding Tumah v'Tahara because of a pasuk. Their dispute is regarding when the pasuk says mikvah. The pasuk says that it's a body of water which is gathered. What is it referring to? Is it referring to all seas, or is it referring to only to the Yom HaGadol? That's their machlekes regarding could it be flowing water or not. That's exactly regarding the laws of tahara. Nothing to do with the amount of salt inside of it. Nothing to do with the laws of refuah. And therefore says the Gemara, le'inyan Shabbos, regarding the laws of Shabbos, which the reasoning is based on the rationale about refuah. Mi shamadlu, did we ever hear that they said a differentiation between the Yom HaGadol and other seas? Like how are you bringing in? It has nothing to do if it's a mikvah or not. It has to do if it's refuah, if it's evident or not. So why would you differentiate between the Yom HaGadol, which doesn't have any different healing properties, and all of the Yamim? The whole machlekes ever made is regarding a totally different halacha, regarding the laws of Tumatara. How could you compare it to the laws of refuah? So Elam Rav Nachman Yitzchak, he says you're right. The Gemara gives a different approach. Like Kash, it's not difficult. The contradiction regarding one brayso is saying you could bathe in the Yom HaGadol on Shabbos, the other one says not. Because the one that says you're not allowed to bathe in the Yom HaGadol on Shabbos is the shtohi, is where you're delaying yourself, that's forbidden because it's obvious that you're doing it because you want to have the healing properties of the seawater. The brayso says you're permitted to go ahead and bathe in the Yom HaGadol is delay shtohi, where you don't delay. Rather you just go in, you dip in, and you go out. That's going to be permitted because you're just cooling off. So therefore that's the resolution for the contradiction regarding if you're allowed to go ahead and bathe in the Yom HaGadol on Shabbos or not. So that says the Gemara, wait a second. But my kim to l'basraisa. How are you explaining the second brayso that says that you're allowed to bathe in it? You're saying because the lo yishtoi, because it's not delaying. So if you're usually going for the healing waters, the mineral waters, you sit there and you bathe and you marinate in it. If you're going in and out, it doesn't look like you're really doing it for healing purposes. But if it's talking about that you didn't delay, so then afilah b'mei mishnami, then even in flax water should also be permitted, because the Tanya in the brayso that says reichetz in b'mei Tiberias, you could bathe yourself in the waters in Tiberias, in Tiberias, ub'mei mishra in the flax water, ub'yamish al Sidon in the waters of Sidon, the afal pishiyesh lechatat the meration. Even if you have sores on your head, which is pretty obvious, you want to do it for refuah purposes, you're allowed to bathe it. Now, says the brayso, when did we say this that you're allowed to bathe in those type of waters? Shloi nishtat, which you didn't go ahead and you didn't delay in the water, so that looks like you're just cooling off. Doesn't look like you're doing it for refuah purposes. Avol nishtal also, but if you delay, if you just linger over there, then it's going to be forbidden. So how do we understand now the internal contradiction of the second brisa? You told me the second brisa that says that you can go ahead and taiva yourself in the Yamagodl. If you're just jumping in and out, so it doesn't look like it's for refuah. So if it's like you're not staying, you're not lingering there, so then why does that same brisa say b'mei mishra and flag swords can be forbidden? Why is it only, we in the first brisa we had said three things are forbidden. Yamagodl, Mei Mishra, and Yamashal Sedem. Yamashal Sedem is very salty. The Dead Sea, it's pretty obvious you're going for the healing purposes. So that's forbidden. And Mei Mishra is also flax water. Who goes to say, I went to Hawaii, I was in the flax water. Right? No one's going to the flax water. So it's obvious doing for refuah. And then we had the Yamagodl. So what are you saying? One bride says Yamagodl you can't, one says yes. You say, okay, the one that says that it's okay is because you're in and out. The one that says it's not is when you stay there and you're lingering, it's obviously doing it for the therapeutic purposes. But the brisa that then says that you're allowed to go ahead in the Yamagodl because you're in and out, and why does it say the other two? The Yamashal Sedem is also you're going in and out. It doesn't look like you're doing for therapeutic purposes either, for the flax water also. Why is it forbidden? You're coming in and out. If you're doing it for the therapeutic purposes, you would sit there and linger over there. So why is that forbidden? So Eluvada says the Gemara a different approach, and this is the final approach of the Gemara. You're right, we have a different approach. Yamagodl Kasha is not difficult with the contradiction about the Yamagodl, the Mediterranean, regarding if it's forbidden or not, because the brisa says you're allowed to is biyafin shabai. Is sometimes you have in one sea, and you could sometimes see this in pictures, you have beautiful blue water, and then sometimes there's that black water. So in the clean part of the Yamagodl, where people would bathe in even during the weekday for just bathing purposes, for pleasure and not for healing purposes, those types of waters you can go into on Shabbos. Habarayim Shabai, however, the one that we said you cannot bathe on Shabbos is talking about the bad waters, which obviously why you're going to this bad waters is for refuah, because no one goes in there just for bathing. And yes, both of them are talking about where you linger over there. But in the good waters you could linger because it's not evident that you're going for the healing purposes. But the bad waters, why you're lingering over there, obviously it's because you want refuah, and therefore that's where it's going to be awesome. That's what the Gemara concludes and says, okay, Mei Mishra, Namili Kasha. Now we could also resolve the difficulty regarding the flag swords, because we had the brisa that we just quoted right now that said that you could bathe in the flax waters. That would seem to be difficult than the previous two brises that said you could not bathe in the flax waters. Says the Gemara, Hadishtai. The brises that said that it's forbidden is where you're going to linger. Hadalashtai, this last brisa that says it's going to be permitted, is Toma, where you're not going to linger. So again, that's how we resolve the contradiction. The bathing in the Mediterranean is in the clean waters you're allowed to, but in the dirty waters you're not allowed to. And the bathing in the Mei Mishra, also are you allowed to bathe yourself in the water that flax was soaked in if you remain in the water for a while. It's obviously for therapeutic purposes, that would be forbidden. But if you don't remain there too long, what's called the lo yishtai, others also cool off in these waters, and therefore, even if it's dirty waters, you just want to get cool, you're just so hot, and therefore it wouldn't be evidence being done for refuah. Anything that's not evident for refuah is permitted to be done on Shabbos, as we can continue in the next Mishnah, which continues on the similar theme, as we mentioned on Menach. Says the Mishnah, Ein oichlin ezaykin. You're not allowed to eat ezaykin, which the Gemara is going to explain exactly what that is. B'Shabbos and Shabbos. The fishein al machal barim. This is a very important word that comes up in the halachas of refuah, of medicine on Shabbos. It's not a food item of healthy people. So it's obvious that you're taking it for refuah. Why are you taking this? Obviously for healing, and you're not allowed to do the Rabban Geyser on refuah on Shabbos, because you might come to do teicha, you might come to grind down the herbs, and therefore you're not allowed to eat such a thing of a zayvin on Shabbos. Avo, you're allowed to eat this ye'ezer, which the Gemara is going to explain exactly what that is, because many healthy people eat it too. And there was not evident you're doing it for refuah. And also b'sheis abavra, you could drink this abavra. So this says the Mishnah, kol ha'eichlon adam l'refuah. A person's allowed to eat any food item he wants to for healing purposes. For chol ha'mashkin sheis, you could drink any beverage either that's for healing purposes. Chutz may made the column, except for palm waters, which is a liquid that they grind inside of it. That's actually the Gemara is going to explain what this palm water is. And that's forbidden, the palm waters. And the kaisi karan. The kaisi karan is the beverage that they would grind inside of it. It's called ikaran because they would take the roots of certain herbs and spices and they would put that into that drink. And the Gemara is explaining exactly what that is. And the reason why you can't drink those waters made shein liyureka, because they're for jaundice, which is a type of an illness of like getting green, and it's not a healthy beverage. So therefore, why are you drinking this? Obviously, for healing purpose, you're not doing things for therapy on Shabbos. Aval Shaisu made the kalm with samai, but however, you could drink the palm waters if it's for your thirst. Meaning, if you're not sick and you're just so thirsty, then you actually could drink it because you're not doing it for refuah. And b'sach shemen ikaron shleil l'refuah, you could also anoint yourself with the oil of this ikaron, not for therapeutic purposes. So, in other words, if you're really sick, you're not allowed to take certain things that's evident that's for refuah. If it's not evident, then you could. If you're a healthy person and you're not even sick, then you could take the medicine. If you're just desperate, you have nothing to drink, and you're taking it, that's not a problem about refuah either, and therefore that would also be a permitted way to do it. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yosef, he clarifies, he says that Ezav, when I mentioned in the Torah, Ezav, which is fit to be used for the Hazah, for spraying on certain peoples, the Mitzayra, so that's a different word. That's not the same thing as what we said in the Mishnah of Ezavian. So that's Abarta Bar Hemek. That's what it is. That's what the Ezav in the Torah is. Ezavian of our Mishnah, that's what's called Avarta Bar Hinik, which Rashi brings from his teachers, that the one that's called Bar Hemek is because it grows in a place of Gemi, which has the Mem and the Gimel over there with these Gemi reeds. And the one that's called Bar Hinik is because it grows amongst the Hegim, which is amongst the thorn bushes. So these are different types of herbs, and he's just clarifying that the Ezav, what the Ezav in the Torah is, and what's Ezavian. Now, Ula Amar, he says, this that says Ezav in the Torah is actually Marva Chivara. It's white sage, which is a type of a herb. The Gemara actually brings a story related to this, that Ula Ikla Lebei Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. They went to the house of Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, and Aishlu Kamei Marva Chivara, they brought in front of him this white sage. Again, sage not as an individual old person with a white beard, it's a type of a herb called sage. Now, Amar, he said, Hainu Ezav D'chsiv Bar Yaisa. This is the Ezav that's written in the Torah, and again, that would be usable for the spraying of certain purification processes that the Torah talks about. A third interpretation of Papam, says it's Shumshik, which that's the Ezav that's written in the Torah. And Amar B'Yimrim B'Difti says, Kabaseder Rav Papam Mistav, it's more logical, like this third interpretation, that the Ezav in the Torah is the Shumshik. Why? Because it's not in the Mishnah this part that says mitzvah's Ezav. The mitzvah of this Ezav herb is to be Shleishik Kalachim. It should have 3 stems, which the Torah calls it Aguda, a bunch. And as the Mishnah teaches elsewhere, that an Aguda is not less than 3. So, therefore, this Ezav has to have 3 stems. Ubehen Shleishik Gavolim. And in them, there should be 3 capsules, which there's different versions of what Rashi is saying. One of them is that each stem should have 3 little branches coming out of them. And it says the Gemara Shumshik with the Mishtah Kachalchi. If you look at the Shumshik herb, it has exactly those characteristics, and therefore that would tell us that that's the Ezav that's written in the Torah. Now we have a very interesting discussion until really the end of the Daf. So the Gemara says more of like refuah, like Talmudic types of therapies. It says Gemara, why would people eat this Ezavian, which we said in the Mishnah different, you can't eat it on Shabbos because it's therapeutic and it's evident for therapeutic purposes. Why would people eat this Ezavian, this medicine? So it says the Gemara, it's l'kukyani. It's for intestinal worms. There's worms inside the intestines. That Ezavian heals the kukyani. It says with what would they eat it? What are the secondary ingredients to treat these intestinal worms? It's b'shebet tamri uchamta. It's with the 7 black dates. Now it says where do these intestinal worms come from? It says kimcha desari. It's from barley flour. The cholafalaur born yomin that has already passed 40 days from when it was ground down, and that's where these intestinal worms come from. That when you eat that flour, that goes into the stomach. That creates, like we know now, everyone's busy with the microbiomes inside the gut. We know that different types of foods have different effects on the body. So the Gemara is saying that if you take that barley flour that was left out for 40 days, that has certain chemical properties, that's going to cause these intestinal worms, and that's why they would take these Ezavian with these 7 black dates to treat them, and again, therefore that's forbidden to be eaten on Shabbos. Now, the Mishnah said, however, but you could eat your ezer, and that's not considered a violation of refuah on Shabbos. Says Maya ezer. Says it's pusnak, which is pennyroyal. Says what would people eat it? Says arkasa, where that's worms in the liver. Says what would they eat it with? Says with 7 white dates. Now says where does this illness come from? Says it's me'umtza. It's from raw meat which was put on the coals, umaya and water aliberikana, on an empty stomach, or umibistur shmana aliberikana, from fatty meat on an empty stomach, or mibisra de tura liberikana, or the meat of an ox on an empty stomach, or mamguza liberikana, or eating nuts on an empty stomach, or umigiri de rubia liberikana, or the stems of fenugreek, which is a type of vegetable, herb, on an empty stomach, and umashti maya basrayu, and you drink water after that, meaning if anyone eats one of these things before he ate yet, it's on an empty stomach, and afterwards he drinks water, that's going to cause this illness of the worms in the liver. Now, so what we said is, what you could take is this yeser, that heals the worms in the liver. It says the Gemara, v'iloi, but let's say he doesn't have this penny royal for the worms in the liver. Or let's say he did take the penny royal, but it didn't heal him. Many people, certain therapies work for them, certain things don't. So he took the penny royal and didn't take care of the worms in the liver. So what he should do is as follows. Livla tachli chivarti. He should swallow white cress. Cress is also a type of a vegetable herb. Now, v'iloi, again, let's say he doesn't have the white cress, or let's say it didn't work for him. So lesi b'tanisa, he should fast. V'lesi bisr shmana, and then they should bring him fatty meat. V'lishte agurma, they should throw it on the coals. V'lemitz garman, and he should suck a good limb from that meat, and he should suck out its fat. V'lig machala, and he should sip vinegar. It doesn't say that no cholala, you shouldn't sip vinegar. Shouldn't be kosher l'kav. That's actually harmful for the liver. It sounds like a lot of times you go to doctors and you take this medication that's not good for the liver, and so he says no, don't take the vinegar. That's not good for the liver. Now, v'iloi, if this therapy doesn't work for you, or if you don't have those things, so leisi gurda da asinta, you should bring the bark of a bush, the grida that was peeled, me'eloi letatoi, from top down. It had to have been peeled from the top downward. But and not from the bottom upward. The reason why it cannot have been peeled downward upwards is because Dilma Nafkim, maybe the worms are going to come out, Aidipume, through his mouth. Because they're going to come out the way the bark was peeled. It was peeled, you want it to be peeled from top down, so it comes out through the bottom. You peel it from the bottom up, it's going to come out from the top. And then, then you should boil it in beer, Beishavavi, which there's two interpretations in Rashi. Either Beishavavi means to say that it should be done by twilight, or Shavavi is from the term of a neighbor, that it should be in the one house of your neighbors, that you shouldn't smell the smell, because the smell is actually harmful for the person who has the illness. And the following day, they should close his holes, meaning he should close his nostrils that he shouldn't smell it, or it means to say that he should close his nostrils and his ears, that the strength of it should not come out from his orifices in his body. But be that as it may, then when he's holding his nose, the lishte should drink it. And when he relieves himself, mafni avshicha de dikla. He should relieve himself in the place where the bark was stripped. That's where he should relieve himself. Again, that's the healing of this for these for these worms of the liver. And again, that's what this second thing in the Mishnah was talking about, Yezer, which is permitted to be done on Shabbos. And then we said also that also considered Michael Brim that many healthy people drink, and therefore even though it's for food, you could drink it on Shabbos. You could drink this abavro. Says the Gemara, Maya abavro. What is this abavro? Says the Gemara, it's chumataria. Says the Gemara, my chumatraya. Says the Gemara, it's chutri yichidon. It's a tree that grows just one bark, just the trunk itself without any branches. Says the Gemara, Maya Abdullah, what is this done for? Says the Gemara, it's ligaluya. If let's say you drank water that was left uncovered, which could have harmful properties, so you say that if you drink from this tree that grows just as an individual trunk itself, that heals for gilui. Now viloi, let's say it doesn't work for you, or you don't have such a type of a tree. So let's say chamshe kalili, you should bring 5 roses, v'chamshe kusta de shikra, and 5 cups of beer, and you should cook them together adikaima an faka, until it's this measurement that holds an ampik, which, as the Gemara in Bava explains, is a revius of a loig. A revius, like how much we usually use like a becher for kiddush, that's called a revius. And when it's that size, that brew, then then you drink it. The Gemara actually brings a story relating to this type of therapy. The Rav Achtai bar Ami, the mother of Rav Achtai bar Ami, of the Leila who Gaba, she did this therapy for a certain person, and she actually did very little. She only did chad klila, she only took 1 rose, for chad kusta de shikra, and 1 cup of beer, And Shalka, she cooked it together, V'ishkese, and she gave him to drink. And V'shagr Tanura, what she did is she lit the oven, V'gerafte, and she shoveled out the coals, so that it should cool down a little bit. V'isvise levinta b'gaveh, and she put a brick inside the oven that he should sit in there and not get burnt. And v'nafak, and it came out, meaning the poison came out that he had swallowed from the uncovered drink, which the problem about uncovered drink is that there's a concern that a snake might have inserted venom. It came out kuhutza, like the leaf of a lulav, yarka that was green. That was what coming out of his body was all this green goo was coming out from this person because the therapy was working, that was helping him detox from what he had inside himself. Or another interpretation of Rabbi Yomi, he says, Riviyas the chalba. You take a revius of milk, me'iza chivarta from a white goat, and that's a valid therapy for this gilui if something was left uncovered. Rav Yehuda, he says no. He says a different idea. He says leisi esriga chalisa. Bring a sweet esrig, v'lachayke, and you go ahead and you carve out inside the esrig, v'lamal yeduvshin, you fill it up with honey, v'leisve bein milili denuri, and you put it onto hot coals, and so therefore the esrig is going to be cooking with the honey inside of it, and then v'lichli, and then you eat it. He says something else. He says, you take urine that either has been sitting around for 40 days, or means from a child that's 40 days old, you take his urine, barzina, which is a small little cup, it's called barzina, so you take that size cup from that urine, and you drink it. And why would you drink it? You drink it lizibura. If let's say someone got bitten by a wasp, that would be healing for that person if he drinks this type of a urine. And it's actually funny because they do have these types of, I just heard recently, they take people's feces and urine, it's actually healing because certain people have certain microbiomes that have certain, in their body, that if a person takes it and ingests it, it goes into their gut, and that actually could be healing. So, I mean, a lot of Talmudic therapies we don't really understand, and sometimes they say Nishtan HaTeva, but the Gemara is saying here to take that urine, and that will be healing for someone that gets bitten by a wasp. Then the Gemara continues, that's for a wasp. Now, a reviyah, which Rashi says a reviyah is haloig, is la kraba. Someone got bitten by a scorpion, so you'll take a reviyah of this urine. Palga river, half of a river, which Rashi here says that means a half of a lug, that's ligiluya. That's for the water that was left uncovered. If you drank from that wine that was left uncovered, that's what adamant you should drink. And river, here Rashi says that means to say aloig is a fila l'chshafim that even for witchcraft is mal. So sorcery is very harmful, but if you're drinking different quantities of this urine, it's going to be healing. Amr B'Yechon, he continues, he says anigrain. He says that beet soup, va'avneger, which is water that was you cook bangori inside of it, which Rashi says some type of herb called bangori, vitirake and balsam, malu, they're helpful, bein legaluya, bein lechshafim, whether it's for beverages that are left uncovered, or whether for sorcery. More continues, Haiman de bola chivya, someone that swallowed a snake. So luchle kishusa b'milcha, you should give him hops to eat with salt. The lirate plus a million, you should have him run 3 mil. The Gemara actually brings a story related to this, that Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, Chazila who gathered the bola chivya, that he saw a person that swallowed a snake. Idamile kifrasha, so he appeared to him as a horse rider, meaning he grabbed him and he forced him. He had him eat hops with salt. The arate kamet plus a million, he had him run in front of him 3 mil, which was that fear and the running and the hops. So it weakened his strength. It made him heat up and perspire, and that caused the snake to die inside of him. And the nothing when and it came out of him pieces and pieces. The snake came out piece by piece because of all that exertion that he did that increased his body heat. It caused that snake to come out. Now, that those that say that actually Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, he was the one, not that he did it to someone else. He himself is the one who swallowed the snake. And also Leo, Leo never came along and appeared to him as a horse rider. And he had him eat these hops and salt, Barte Kamet plus a mili, and he ran in front of him 3 mil. but nothing when they gubi, and it came out pieces by piece. So the Gemara ends off by saying, Haiman de Tarke Chibir. Someone that a snake bit him, so Lacey Ubra de Chamr Chibarta. They should bring an embryo of a white donkey for the carry and they should tear it open. But Lacey Vilabay, and you put on the bite, that's going to be therapeutic. That the Gemara concludes and says, when we say this can be helpful, is the Loish Tekeach Treifa. That's only, however, if we find that the mother is not a treifa. Some of this we discussed in today's Daf in Sefer Shabbos Daf Testament Aleph was that we spoke about the continued halachas of Netilas Yadayim. If a person did not wash Netilas Yadayim, and it can be dangerous, so then you could take this mascara called Puch, and that heals the Bas Melech, which is the name of this harmful the spirit that's on the hands when someone wakes in the morning. And then we went back with the laws of Refuah. We said certain things, they're not Refuah types of things, and therefore it's permitted to be done on Shabbos. And then we spoke about different things, like Rav Chizah said about the base of the putting on the chicken. So that's not going to be a problem about tikkun mana, but whisking the eggs looks like you're going to cook it, and therefore that would be forbidden to be done on Shabbos. We spoke about an opinion of Zeiri, who he says that you could go ahead and baste the chicken on Shabbos, is because since really that you could eat the meat without basting, without putting that sauce on top, so that's similar to straining wine. That could be you could drink it even without straining it. Therefore, it's not a problem about Same thing is also over here. Additionally, we said that sometimes when you get a wound, although you can't do refuah on Shabbos, let's say you get a bang on the top of your foot or the top of your hand, so that would be considered as a makkah shachol. It's like an internal wound. So although we said that you can't, when you get swelling, you can't use vinegar because that's going to be refuah on Shabbos, and wine you could, but if someone has a bang on their foot or the top of that, and that's why we said it's important to know regarding calling Hatzala or taking medical treatment on Shabbos, it could be that it's an internal wound. An internal wound could be dangerous, and therefore then you could go ahead and do that refuah on Shabbos. Then we had a discussion regarding what type of waters could you bathe in on Shabbos. Forget about the halacha about bathing on Shabbos, but that regarding refuah. So we had a discussion that regular bodies of water you could bathe in, but those which are evident that you're doing for refuah, let's say flax water. What are you doing in flax water? Obviously, and the Gemara ultimately explained, when you're lingering in that water, the dirty water, or in Melech Sadaim, in the Dead Sea, what are you doing in Yam HaMelech? You're doing it for the therapeutic purposes, so that would be forbidden to be done on Shabbos. But we had a contradiction regarding the Yam HaGadol. The Gemara ultimately concluded, the Gemara first wanted to compare it to Tumah and Tahara regarding if it's called mikvah or not. The Gemara says what that has no relation to refuah on Shabbos. That's regarding, let's say, if it's salty or not. So the Gemara says, yeah, we're talking about the Yafin Shabbai versus Roin Shabbai. The good waters, the clean waters, so that people bathe in. And therefore it's not evident you're doing for refuah. If that would be permitted on Shabbos. But if you're going to dirty waters, if you're going to not clean waters, why you're going is obviously for refuah, and that would be forbidden done on Shabbos. So to the flax waters, we said if you're jumping in and out, people go in dirty waters to cool themselves. So they're so hot, they don't care. That would be permitted on Shabbos. But if you're lingering and you're while you're doing a flax water, that would be forbidden to be done on Shabbos. And then we get to it, the next Mishnah, which spoke about Michael Brian, which is that you could take a, like we said, a cup of tea with some honey for your sore throat, even though it's refuah, it's meichesh ba'almi, and I'll do that on Shabbos, but it's not evident because a lot of people have a cup of tea with some honey. But if you're drinking something, and that's where the discussions come up with, like we said, with Tums and these and that, is that what normal people do? That's what a lot of places can talk about. If it's what normal people do, so then it doesn't look like it's evident. But if it's not normal, and it's only someone who has a certain ailment is doing that, so then that would be forbidden. And that wouldn't be permitted to be done on Shabbos. And then the Gemara went through a whole discussion regarding qualifying what are they used for, and what's the certain types of Talmudic treatments for these types of ailments to be used in case one has this type of ailment. Thank you to Anytime for hosting us.